Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to continue infections of bones and joints. In the last class, we have seen about acute osteomyelitis, chronic osteomyelitis, and their pathogenesis. And there were some doubts asked by your colleagues, which we're going to see at the end of the session. Now, first we'll go into the septic arthritis or pyogenic arthritis. So, what is septic arthritis? Septic arthritis is the spread of the infection to the joint. When a joint is affected by any infective organisms, bacteria, it is called septic arthritis. It is also called acute pyogenic arthritis. So, septic arthritis and acute pyogenic arthritis, either of the terms are used in question paper. They may ask you explain regarding septic arthritis, or they may also ask you about explain about acute pyogenic arthritis. This is one of the most frequently asked questions in your university examination. It can be asked as a 10 marks question or for short answer question, or a part of this question may be given as a very short answer question. So let us look into what septic arthritis is. Septic arthritis, it is the inflammation of joint due to infection by pyogenic organisms. It is most commonly seen in children, usually children and elderly age group. Extremes of ages are they are most commonly affected. And knee, hip, and shoulder, these are the most commonly involved joints. And then the most common causative organism is Staphylococcus aureus in adults. In children, it is Haemophilus influenza. So this is introduction about the septic arthritis. Now coming to the etiology, modes of spread of infection. As we have seen earlier in case of acute osteomyelitis, same way the septic arthritis can be either due to direct inoculation or direct spread from the adjacent focus of infection or hematogenous spread. In direct inoculation, either a penetrating injury, we have direct inoculation where we have penetrating injury, that is a sharp object injuring the joint. So that is one of the modalities, and the other one is intra-articular injections. Most commonly in elderly age group you will find osteoarthritis. So these people, for pain relief, they may get intra-articular steroids. If these injections are given without taking aseptic precautions, it may end up in septic arthritis. So that is one of the examples of direct inoculation. So by any surgery, after post-surgery complications also, if it is infected, it may lead to septic arthritis. All these things, penetrating wound, intra-articular injections or aspiration, or post-surgical, all these come under direct inoculation. And coming from the direct spread from focal infection, in the earlier class we have discussed, suppose you have a joint here. And this is the synovial tissue. And surrounding this, we have the capsule. Suppose here the metaphor. So here you have the metaphysis. So in case of intra-articular metaphysis, the infection, it may lead to septic arthritis. We have seen in the earlier class, intra-articular metaphysis. Or any superficial focus of infection. These may also lead to septic arthritis. So that is direct spread from adjacent focus of infection, and hematogenous spread. Suppose there is some other focus of infection elsewhere in the body, like tonsillitis or any other infection, it may also lead to spread of the infection. So these are the three modes of spread. This is common in case of acute osteomyelitis as well as in acute septic arthritis. in acute osteomyelitis also, if there is any compound fracture or any prick injury, in case of direct inoculation, there will be infection. So this is all about etiology and modes of spread. Causative organisms we have already seen earlier. So coming to the pathology. So depending on the virulence of organisms, septic arthritis can present as serous, serofibrinous or purulent. So in this, whenever there is infection, first the synovium gets involved. So there will be areas of necrosis in the capsule and synovium and gross pathology and the articular surface. Here you have the articular surface. So here we have the articular cartilage. So assume this to be the articular cartilage and this is the synovial membrane. So this is the articular cartilage and here you have the synovial membrane. Now, whenever a joint is affected, when the synovium is affected, initially the first stage there will be synovitis, where the synovium it gets inflamed and there will be effusion into the joint. So that will be the first scene effusion. Effusion is seen because of the synovial irritation and there will be intense swelling, redness of the joint. That is one of the clinical features which we will see here. And then the articular cartilage, it gradually gets destroyed because of the proteolytic enzymes released by the organisms. They destroy the cartilage. And once the cartilage is destroyed, it gradually goes from early arthritis to late arthritis. And then you have the other pathological features. So first there will be synovium involved, which leads to the inflammation of the synovium and synovitis. Here you can see the synovium is involved and showing with the cursor. And then when the synovium is involved, there will be synovitis leading to the effusion of the joint. Synovial fluid is secreted in huge amounts and there will be swelling, and effusion is nothing but accumulation of fluid in the joint. And then gradually the articular cartilage gets destroyed, as you see here. And when the articular cartilage gets destroyed, here you can see completely, if it is not arrested here, the articular cartilage is completely destroyed. And in the fourth image, you can appreciate that there is bony ankylosis. That is, both ends of the joint, they fuse together. They fuse together. This is called ankylosis. If a pathological process leads to the fusion of joint, it is called ankylosis. If it is done by a doctor surgically, if it is done, it is arthrodesis. Arthrodesis is a therapeutic procedure, and here ankylosis is fusion of the joint because of the uh, destruction of the cartilage and pathological process. So in the fourth image, you can appreciate bony ankylosis. So coming to the clinical features. In clinical features, initially the patient will have different constitutional symptoms like high fever and malaise and pain in the affected joint. Severe throbbing pain will be there and there will be swelling of the affected joint. And clinically, when you examine the case, on inspection you have swelling, acute swelling, redness, the skin will be shiny, and then on palpation there will be local rise of temperature, and there will be joint line tenderness. Extreme joint tenderness will be present and marked spasm of the muscles, and patient will not let you move the joint. There will be gross restriction of the movement because of the pain. In case of children, coming to the children, apart from these symptoms, the child usually will not use that limb, the affected limb, as the other limb is used. This is also called pseudoparalysis. And patient assumes a position of maximum capacity. That is the position of the joint in which it has maximum capacity to accommodate the synovial fluid which has been secreted. And there the pain will be less. In that position, the patient usually rests. For example, in hip, you have flexion, abduction, and external rotation position. And in knee joint, the patient is kept in flexion. So this is the attitude. So that is the attitude. What is the difference between attitude and deformity? In attitude, when you try to correct the abnormal position, it comes to the normal position. Whereas in deformity, it is fixed. You cannot bring it to the neutral or normal position. That is the difference between attitude and deformity. And once again, I want to summarize the clinical features. Initially, the patient will have high fever, malaise, and pain over the affected joint. And on exam, and severe throbbing pain will be present. And on examination, there will be swelling, effusion, and in case of knee joint, you will have the patellar tap positive. If at all the patient lets you do that, you can appreciate that. There will be swelling, redness of the joint, local rise of temperature, and extreme tenderness, marked spasm of the muscles, and painful limitation of all the movements. And we have already discussed about the attitude. Even the attitude of the patient will be in the position of maximum capacity. And coming to the different stages of the disease, I have explained earlier. First, you have the stage of synovitis, where the synovium is involved, where there will be effusion of the joint. In case of second stage, there is stage of reversible arthritis, where there is minimal destruction of the articular cartilage. And then if it is neglected and if it is not attended to, it will reach to irreversible arthritis, where there will be total destruction of the articular cartilage and the underlying subchondral bone will be exposed. It may either end up in a bony ankylosis, or it may gradually lead to secondary osteoarthritis. So these are all the different stages of the disease. And coming to the investigations. Initially, the routine blood investigations like leukocyte count, WBC count, ESR, and one investigation which is very important is CRP. It is not mentioned in the slide. This CRP is also sent. So CRP is elevated, ESR is elevated, and the leukocyte count is also elevated. Blood culture is also sent. As soon as these investigations are sent, you can start the patient on a empirical antibiotic, broad spectrum antibiotic. And then one important thing which should be done is aspiration of the joint. If the aspiration on aspiration, you can see the color of the aspirate, the fluid. If it is frankly purulent, then immediately one has to go to the orthotomy. One has to intervene immediately and go to orthotomy, that is opening of the joint. And after aspiration of the joint, so now the joint is aspirated, and the fluid it is sent for synovial fluid analysis. Synovial fluid analysis, Gram staining, and culture and sensitivity. In synovial fluid analysis, you can observe the color, and then the total number of leukocyte count is also very much increased. It is more than 50,000 cells per ml can be seen in case of acute septic arthritis. The glucose level of the fluid is also decreased, and then protein level is increased. Like that, depending on different conditions, septic arthritis or inflammatory arthritis, the values, that is the protein level, sugar level, and cells, and any crystals, all these things will be analyzed in synovial fluid analysis. And depending on that, we can diagnose the septic arthritis. I mean, if at all in septic arthritis, you will have specific findings like decrease in sugar levels and increase in proteins and increase in leukocytes. All these things can be seen in synovial fluid analysis, and we can also isolate the causative organism and culture sensitivity, and specific antibiotic can be initiated. So after aspirating, one thing you have to send it for synovial fluid analysis. And then if it is frankly purulent, then go for arthrotomy, that is drainage of the joint. So the joint should be drained and it should be washed. The joint should be opened and completely the pus and the necrotic material, it should be removed, and then it should be saline lavage should be given, normal saline and lavage should be given, and then a small catheter or drain is left in place, and to see the any aspirate and further for the necrotic material or pus to drain out, you have to leave it. That is the thing you should do after aspiration. So that is the role of aspiration. And coming to the investigations, after blood investigations, blood culture, and then you will send it to the aspiration of the joint is also done. Coming to the radiological investigations, on X-ray, initially no bony changes are seen in the first stage. Maximum what can be seen is increase in soft tissue swelling will be seen. And then in early stages, because of the synovial fluid accumulation, there will be widening of the joint space. However, in later stages, because of the destruction of the articular cartilage, there will be narrowing of the joint space. First, there will be soft tissue shadows and then widening of the joint space because of the synovial fluid effusion. And then later on, there will be narrowing of the joint space because of the destruction of the articular cartilage. And ultrasound is also another modality of investigation. In ultrasound, depending on the echoes produced by the contents of the joint, you will have non-echo free ultrasound in case of septic arthritis. Ultrasound can also be used for aspiration. Ultrasound guided aspiration can also be done in certain joints like hip joint. So these are all the investigations. And here this is X-ray picture showing the bony ankylosis. This is the plain X-ray of the knee joint post septic sequelae. You can see the bony ankylosis. I'm showing it with the cursor here. In the lateral view, you can appreciate here. And this is the AP view. In ankylosis, the range of motion is completely restricted. Since there is no joint space here and this bar will act as a block in the range of motion, there will be complete restriction of the range of motion. And now I am showing the X-ray here. The arrow, it is depicting a case of septic arthritis of hip in a child, in an immature skeleton. You can see the physis is not yet fused here. So here, compared to the opposite side, there is increase in the joint space. This increase in joint space is because of the synovial fluid effusion. So this is in early stages. And here in the late stage, you can appreciate that the head is completely destroyed. Head and neck are completely destroyed. and the hip is also dislocated, subluxated. So these are the, now we are going to see about Tom Smith arthritis, which is the septic arthritis of hip seen in infants. Uh, I'll come back to the management of septic arthritis later. And Tom Smith arthritis is a variety of septic arthritis which is seen in septic arthritis of hip seen in infants. Usually in infants, the head and neck are completely cartilaginous, and because of the pyogenic process, they are rapidly destroyed. One thing, because of the pyogenic process, they can be destroyed, and in older children, because of the accumulation of pus, there will be pressure effects and avascular necrosis of the femoral head also. So here it is a very acute condition where the cartilage is very rapidly destroyed. So unless you intervene early, it may lead to disastrous complications. Sometimes if we assume it to be a superficial infection and we don't take care, gradually the head and neck, they will completely resolve, and then the patient presents sometime later in walking age without any pain. Only the limb will be the major complaint. And when you take the X-ray, one will be surprised to find that there is no head or neck in the proximal end of the femur. Now here, this is the X-ray of the septic arthritis of hip. Here you can see gradually the shape of the neck shaft angle has also changed, and there is widening of the joint space and subluxation of the joint here in the first X-ray. And here a few years later you can see that the head is completely deformed and the neck has disappeared. Head has disappeared and the neck also, it got deformed completely. So this will lead to pain, limp, and then other clinical features of hip pathology, which we'll see subsequently in your clinical classes. All these consequences, you have to face it if you don't attend the septic arthritis of any joint in time. So aspiration is the main modality of treatment. It is the keystone. And after that, we have to immobilize and splint the joint, affected joint. This splinting should be done first thing to prevent the occurrence of deformities and to to reduce the pain. So this splinting should be done, which is done either by skin traction, and all these things we are going to see in subsequent classes. And most importantly, maintenance of adequate hydration and parenteral antibiotics should also be given. So coming to the complications. So first thing is deformity and stiffness. If neglected, there will be surrounding soft tissue contractures, which will lead to stiffness and deformity. And in earlier X-ray, we have also seen bony ankylosis of the joint, which will lead to the restriction of the range of motion, stiffness of the joint, and then pathological dislocation. Just now we have seen in septic arthritis of the hip where there is pathological dislocation, and secondary osteoarthritis may also occur at a later age. There will also be occurrence of acute osteomyelitis. Suppose in case of proximal femur septic arthritis which is not attended, gradually proximal femoral metaphysis may be affected because it is an intra-articular metaphysis seen there. It may also get affected and femoral osteomyelitis may take place. And finally, the head and neck will get resolved, and then there will be pathological dislocation and other disastrous consequences. They can be seen. So these are all the different complications. And in young children, if it is neglected, it may also end up in septicemia and fatal consequences. So one has to be very much alert about septic arthritis. It is one of the orthopedic emergencies. In orthopedic, one of the dislocation is one emergency, and then septic arthritis is the other one where you have to attend immediately. The patient should be taken care of and treatment should be initiated as soon as possible without losing any time. And coming to gonococcal arthritis. Gonococcal arthritis, it is usually seen in sexually active adults. Neisseria gonorrhea is the causative organism. And here you can see two types of clinical disorders. One is disseminated gonococcal infection, where you have a triad of polyarthritis, tenosynovitis and dermatitis, and then septic arthritis of a single joint like knee and shoulder. And both these syndromes can occur at a time in the same patient. Here there will be slight pyrexia and ESR count and WBC count will be raised. And on history, you can elicit history of contact and genitourinary symptoms also. And treatment, as we have seen earlier, rest, antibiotics, and aspiration of the joint. Coming to the syphilitic lesions of bone. Nowadays, this is usually nowadays because of the decreased incidence of the disease, we hardly find any syphilitic lesions of the bone coming to us. Um, Usually, it is important for entrance point of view, and syphilis it is caused by spirochete Treponema pallidum, and it is generally acquired during sexual activity by direct contact with the infectious lesion. And the infection it spreads through regional lymph nodes and then to the bloodstream. And the organism can also cross the placental barrier and enter the fetal circulation, causing the congenital syphilis. So coming to the acquired syphilis, the primary ulcerous lesion, chancre, usually it appears at the site of inoculation after a few period, maybe a month after the initial infection, and it disappears either with or without treatment after a few weeks. And then following the hematogenous spread, you will find a secondary phase where different orthopedic manifestations are like polyarthritis and periosteum. Periosteum is most commonly involved, leading to periostitis. And then the syphilitic arthritis are usually fleeting arthritis and they are worse at night. And after the secondary phase, it enters the latent phase, the disease, and subsequently in tertiary phase, there will be appearance of large granulomatous gamma in the bones and joints. And in neurosyphilis, you have the involvement of the dorsal root ganglion and tabes dorsalis. And there will also be Charcot's joints. That is the joints, they do not have the sensibility and they get broken down. We are going to see in detail about Charcot's joints when we are going to discuss about the different arthritic conditions and pathology of the joints. So here in this you can see the anterior bubbing of the tibia, and this is the intense periosteal reaction, periostitis it is seen. Here this deformity is due to the abnormal bone formation here. It is not because of the defect in the bone structure per se. There is anterior bubbing of the tibia. This is called saber tibia. Congenital syphilis. Congenital syphilis, it is seen shortly after the birth where limb displays large tender swelling at the joints. There will be multiple symmetrical epiphysitis. The epiphysis is involved at distal femur, proximal tibia, distal radius, distal ulna, and there will be dactylitis of the finger resulting in pseudoparalysis. And another manifestation is Clutton's joints, which are bilateral symmetrical serous painless synovitis with marked effusion. Usually it occurs in puberty. Knee and elbow are most commonly affected. There will be nodular thickening of the outer table of the skull, which is called Parrott's nodes. And in older children, there will be dental malformations called Hutchinson teeth, erosion of the nasal bones, there will be erosion of the vomer, which leads to the saddle nose deformity, and there will be thickening and expansion of the finger phalanges leading to dactylitis, and Clutton's joints, that is painless effusions of the knee and elbow. Here in the congenital syphilis, you can see the intense periosteal reactions on either side, bilateral. In the treatment, early lesions will usually respond to intramuscular injections of benzyl penicillin given weekly for 3 to 4 doses, and late lesions will require high doses of intravenous penicillin for a week or 10 days. So, coming to the summary of today's session, we have septic arthritis. It is one of the orthopedic emergencies. Aspiration and initiation of antibiotics. Initially, intravenous antibiotics, which are started empirically, broad spectrum antibiotics, like third generation cephalosporins or vancomycin, it is given. And then after we get the culture and sensitivity report, we'll start them on appropriate antibiotic. Initially, intravenous antibiotics are given, and then when and shifted to oral antibiotics, patient should be given rest, splinting and non-weight bearing should be advocated. And then once the symptoms subside, then gradually the range of motion exercises should be initiated to prevent the deformities or stiffness of the joints because of prolonged immobilization. And that is the mainstay of treatment. And then arthrotomy. If the aspirate is frankly purulent, then you have to go immediately for arthrotomy and joint lavage. And coming to the, this is all about septic arthritis. And acute osteomyelitis and chronic osteomyelitis we have discussed in our earlier class, where acute osteomyelitis also, the children are most commonly affected. And in chronic osteomyelitis, you have sequestrum and involucrum, which are the hallmarks. And in chronic osteomyelitis, clinically we have discharging sinuses which are adherent to the underlying bone, and there will be surrounding skin changes because of prolonged inflammation and cicatrization, and there will be irregularity and thickening of the bones. So with this we have completed our infections of bone and joints, and now you can mail your queries to the email ID given here. Before that, in the last class, there is a query, that is the what is the difference between living bone and involucrum. So it is a good question which is asked. And then involucrum, first let us look into the pathology of chronic osteomyelitis briefly.